Welcome everybody to the American Space Museum. I'm Marquette, and we're so glad you're with us to stay curious with Carleton Bailie, a rocket photographer, over 600 launches. Welcome, Carleton.
Glad to be here.
Well, good to see you here.
Glad we could finally make it.
Well, he's one of our fans of Stay Curious, thanks to the Tom and Mark Usiak brothers, and we're gonna that are like you're like the I don't know if you're like the Three Musketeers or the Three Stooges, but we're going to find out about that here in a few minutes.
A little bit of
there.
both.
And you got a nice cat shirt on there with a shark, and my, you look wonderful there. But what is wonderful, look at this piece of work of Carleton's photographing the rainbow over, what orbiter is that? You remember that?
STS-88.
88, the scroll. 80. Oh, that was the Cabana.
It was the
going
morning
with
of
the Krikalev.
12/4/98. It was Cabana.
They turned the lights, Krikalev. They turned the lights on the ISS.
It was the very first working station part, I think, that we sent up.
Yep, 12/4/98
Nancy
there.
Curry was on it. It had scrubbed the night before.
Uh-huh.
So we were out at the Space Center all night waiting to go reset the cameras because it had rained a little, and then it poured down rain right before we went out to reset our cameras, and we're all sitting there resetting. So depending on what, where you put your cameras, I was like that. Well, you can see the angle I was at. I got
Sure,
the
there's
full
other
rainbow.
people on the other side.
There's people to the side where they got the
water
rainbow,
tower
but
there.
it wasn't covering the shuttle.
Uh-huh.
And if it hadn't scrubbed the night before, it wouldn't have been possible.
Well, there you are already talking some good stuff that you want to stay curious about. By the way, Ralph Rowe launched that mission, according to my shuttle scroll, one of the 5 missions that Ralph launched in December 1998. December 4th was the launch. Unity model, Unity was taken up there. The first segment of our, think about that, Carleton. You've seen most of the launches of the shuttle, building the space shuttle. That was our first segment there. And you've got a rainbow over there, so you brought it good luck, maybe.
Well, and there was I was told later, Nancy Curie got in touch with me, there was a rainbow on their patch. And without
really?
And she saw that picture because I had sent it to the crew.
Uh-huh.
And she asked to use it for a magazine article she was using, and I said, by all means. And so it made the cover of that, but the crew, I got to know the crew, and they had a signed picture sent back to me of the rainbow picture. And
well, we're going to talk to Carleton about some things today. We'll have him back several times each year because he's got so much to share. He was a 1-hour photo lab guy at on Cocoa Beach during the heyday of the shuttle, and interesting stories about that. But y'all know I'm involved with the collections and some of our eBay stuff, and I have been seeing this photograph for a couple years now of the rocket passing in front of the full moon, and I'm like, oh my God, who is that photographer? I know it's film. I could just tell it was a film shot. And it had to be back in the day when you could not figure things like that out. And Carleton's going to tell us about that in a few minutes here to help you stay curious. But all of you have probably seen that shot. Here's the photographer, Carleton Bailie. And we're going to get into a little bit about who you are and some of the great photography you've done. But first, we're going to thank everybody for watching on Facebook Live, YouTube, Twitch, and Spotify. And we'll push this over to audio thanks to our Trekkie Techie Jessica Galloway, and put it on Apple and Google audio podcasts. Maybe one day you'll be hearing it going down the road. And thanks to Marty Winkle, my co-producer and faithful Stay Curious friend here, that we've had some frustrations trying to get things going up. But thank you, Marty, for all you do. I know we've got so many single point failures here in this museum, and he's one of them because we can't do the show without him. And so kudos to Marty out there. But we have, Marty, a birthday. Oh, we're going to rack them up. Let me go this way. I'll bet it's this. Let's see where you're going to see a couple pretty pictures there. Oh, that's the other way. Let me go this way. We're going to talk a little bit about Godzilla. And we're going to get you guys out. I'm going through our whole setup here to find Trekkie Techie, that I wanted to say that we had going. Where's my birthdays? Are there birthdays on there? Yes, they are. They are birthdays. Okay. Sorry for that. That's what we had a little production trouble getting everything lined up today. But Carleton, we celebrate each month the shuttles that were launched in that month. And we have STS-75 with Andy Allen, commander, was launched yesterday in my notes here. February 22nd in 1996, and this was that Tether, the second flight of the Tether satellite that generated electricity on this long, you see the from the shuttle at the bottom on the patch to the top, and it generated electricity by dragging through the upper atmosphere, and I'm talking dragging it 15 miles. The first time Andy took it up there, it broke. And this time it worked pretty good, but I've always wondered why they don't do that on the space station. But we're going to talk more about this mission maybe tomorrow and Friday to catch up. And there are the three Amigos, the three Stooges, or the three Musketeers. What is it there?
Kind of combination of all of them.
Well, they're a combination of all of them. You're on the left, that's Tom Usiak in the middle, and his brother Mark, his baby brother Mark there. That's what I was seeing was his portrait.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, the portrait was a very low ISO film there. So, you remember what year that was? You all got gray hair and looking good.
That might a bunch of the pictures in there were from STS-37.
Mm-hmm.
So, which
well,
is
and
way
you guys
back.
bonded and became friends over the space shuttle pads, literally. And you could tell a little bit about that story here in a minute. STS-133 is launched February 24th. 2011, the last mission of Discovery. We have that running every about 3 times an hour. We have a loop of 10 minutes of a shuttle launch with this launch and landing. Nicole Stott, thank you for all you've done for our museum. She was on that mission, and Drew was the last African American on a mission until Victor Glover went up on the Crew Dragon. But happy birthday to this guy, Clayton Anderson. Clayton Anderson is 63 years old today, born February 23rd, 1959. There's Clayton in space. Guess what college he went to? He went to Iowa State. He was born in Omaha, Nebraska, but considers nearby Ashland, Nebraska to be his hometown. He's noted for 2 things, Carleton. I don't know if you know this. One, he's the only astronaut from Nebraska, so that gets you free meals wherever you go, okay?
Yeah, absolutely.
And 2, he is known for the astronaut who was rejected 14 times by NASA before being accepted in 1998. 14 times he was rejected, and the 15th time he was accepted.
That's why you got to keep trying.
Yeah, got to keep trying, don't you? 2 missions, 167 days in space, so that paid off. He got to spend a lot of time in space. He was on Expedition 15 on a 5-month stint on the space station. And he went up on STS-117, Carleton, and came down on 120. And then he was on mission STS-131 that took the supplies to the space station. 6 EVAs. We love that about our astronauts. There he is later in life. The Mach 25 patch. If there's one available at our auction, we're going to talk about our auction starting tomorrow, Carleton. Our 19th memorabilia auction will be Saturday, March 5th, online and here at the museum. Those patches go for $300-400 easy, because only an astronaut can get the Mach 25 patch on there. So there we wish a happy birthday to Carleton Anderson, born February 23rd, 1959 in Omaha, Nebraska, where they ship those delicious steaks to you.
Yeah.
All right. And I got one other birthday, and Marty, if you could just make that bigger. This is Canada's first astronaut, Mark Garneau. He has 3 space flights, 30 days in space. All right, because he didn't do he's an earlier astronaut, and he's born in Quebec, Quebec City, Quebec, in Canada, and he is involved with the colleges up there, Kingston College, Royal Military College, and we did want to shout out to birthday boy there, Mark Garneau, the first Canadian astronaut, and I'll put some more about him up on our Facebook page. So that's usually what we're cleaning house here for some of our normal Stay Curious things for all of our fans out there. I know Andrew Oliva's watching. Hey, Andrew. And Mike Killian, you know Mike, rocket photographer.
Absolutely.
He's probably going to try to pick up some tips from you.
Gotcha.
But Mike Killian's aircraft photographing airplanes is just unparalleled, and we can't wait to get him in here and talk about it.
Can't hold a candle to him.
Can't hold a candle to anybody, Mike, with your photography. I'm not sure I could be in an airplane and do all the things he does to get those pictures.
No. 20 or 30 years ago, I might have said yes, but now...
Because we were crazy back in 20, 30 years ago. We didn't have any sense, you know.
Yeah, we're a different kind of crazy now.
Exactly. Well, like I said, here's a brother Shutterbug, Carleton Bailie, a new friend, like so many of you new people that we've met at the American Space Museum. I'm blessed to meet all kinds of quality people, like Ken Kramer and Gene Wright, helping us in our museum, and the USIAC brothers and you. And that's basically what I'm here to do, is to try to get some people, some eyes on our museum, our wonderful nonprofit. And like I said, I saw this beautiful picture, and then I'm going to show you a couple others here. We do have some, just want to do a little old school here because you autographed those. That's a gorgeous example of his work there. What's that one, Carleton?
It was a Delta II. I think the date on it. Probably. But one of the things.
04. Yeah. 304.
One of the things that I was fortunate working for Boeing and doing that, we could be there when others couldn't, and you'd get, it's historical. Capturing it for posterity and for historical reasons.
Exactly. And I'm showing you these because a true photographer loves seeing his work on prints and not on a digital screen, right, Carleton?
That's the one thing. The newbies, as I call them, are never going to have. I say never. 99% never be able to walk into a store and see their work on a cover of a magazine, pick it up and buy it and take it home, or hold it.
Buy 3 or 4 copies.
Or 10 or 12 if you got family. And so unless they print it out on their computer, they can't physically hold it in their hands, and that's the one thing that I do miss.
Yeah, me too. Even getting, I was a newspaper guy, so getting that paper ink all over your fingers, know. But it's just the thrill of seeing your picture and how an editor's going to display it. Sometimes you love it, sometimes you don't. But we're going to talk to Carleton here about his career here a little bit, but we're going to, of course, tease you a little bit there. There you are with Nicole Stott, that has given us what I call Stott-isms. And you're our favorite one is, of course, we're all Earthlings. Mm-hmm. And what are the other two? She says we're all Earthlings. We're all on a planet, and the only border that matters is the thin blue line right behind you guys there. But the Stott-ism I love best is an astronaut one she shared with us, and that is slow down to go fast. And I'm constantly thinking, just stop and slow down, because lots going on. Well, what you got there? Godzilla with the Braves, world champion Braves?
Well, yeah, that's a mascot. It's a launch mascot. He goes out to the launches. It's been going out since STS-115 is the earliest I can document it. And he's sort of become a routine thing that if he's out there, they launch on time. If I don't take him, which, of course, is just one of the superstitions. And having been around...
There, you brought one with us there.
Yeah, so he's got his little Mercury suit on. He's got his air conditioning pack. But he goes out. He's...
Godzilla.
Well, now,
your
copyright infringement.
Blue Oyster Cult song is in my head right now.
A good friend, Gail Villanueva.
There goes Tokyo.
Gail Villanueva used to work on propellants out there. And when I first started taking him out there, we were like, no, can't call him Godzilla because of copyright infringement. And they have something out there called the Foreign Object Debris Program.
Right.
Because they don't want things floating around in space once they get up there. And that's shortened down to FOD. Henceforth, he's now
FOD.
called FODzilla.
Marty, the D of FOD, I think actually means detection. The debris? Not the I've got something over my desk in there. We'll look at
Yeah,
that.
they do like a FOD walk down on the look.
Yeah, FOD, but
Run
yeah,
around all that.
foreign object debris. But I think it was originally detection. But anyway, well, that's just the acronyms of NASA on there. Well, let's get in a little bit more about your life, okay? And you like cats.
I love cats.
And-
I started off.
And that's one of your photos, because here you are as a young pup yourself with a couple. What you got
Baby
there?
lions.
Baby lions.
That's I worked at a Lion Country Safari up in Virginia, Doswell, Virginia. It was part of a
Tazewell?
Doswell, Virginia.
Oh, okay.
And it was an amusement park, Kings Dominion Amusement Park, and they had a Lion Country Safari adopted to it. And I had actually raised a couple wallabies, and they bred in my parents' basement. We had a baby
Raised
wallaby.
wallabies. Okay. I've never met anybody that's ever
Yeah, well,
owned a wallaby, let alone raised them.
and
Okay.
they would put harnesses on them, bounce them around. So
Really?
I took them out and I sold them to Lion Country, and they said, "Well, we've been trying for years to do this, and how did you do it?" And I'm like, "Well, trade secret.
Now, is a wallaby a kangaroo?
It's a form of kangaroo."
Okay,
Or the family.
okay.
These were about 3 feet tall,
Wow.
and so I started working out there.
This guy's going to be fun to get to know more about, I guarantee you.
And we had that we would have to pull a lot of the babies, like these 2 lion cubs, out from the mother because the mother might not take care of them properly. And that's one of our. That's actually, I believe, that's Tony Tiger.
That's a gorgeous photograph.
And as you can almost see the chain link fence I shot through, because
Yeah.
these are not your house cats. These
Right.
are. Now the lions I could take home, and they were.
Well, I
nuts.
saw a couple of pictures of you laying around down with the lions, but you had this fun meme here that if the Earth was flat, cats would have pushed everything off of it by now.
Well, I saw you talking about the flat Earth people the other day on one of your talks, and I said, well, I'm going to have to send this to him because.
You knew I was going to use it, too.
Oh well.
You ever heard of the Flat Mars Society, though, or the Flat
No,
Moon Society?
no,
it's
you
just
never
the
hear-
Flat Earth, of course, on there. There you are with
All
laying
right.
down with the lions there.
Okay. So he was slightly drugged. Fortunately,
okay.
They every year they would knock, just like your house animals. We couldn't take them to the vets, so the vets came to us, and we had our own vets, and they would come, and every year or twice a year they would knock them down and tranquilize them, and they'd do the blood test to make sure they're all healthy, and we would know what day it was. People would bring their cameras in because we knew it was going to be a great photo op.
Oh.
And so we sort of planned for it. Now they're knocked out, but you can't knock a lion out because if you knock them out totally, then you've also, if they don't come back right away from the antidote, the anesthesia, then you got to, kind of work on them like your house cats or dogs. That'd be no problem. But these guys don't come out. You're not going to go in there and CPR or anything. So you don't knock them out totally. You knock them out just enough where they don't really know what they're doing.
Oh, well, that's interesting.
So-
Little zoology here on Stay Curious. Well, let's get to your launch photography. What's fascinating, folks, is there's a lot that goes into these rocket shots, okay? And Carleton came on in 1987, right, 88, when he's going to describe some of the sensors they used to because you couldn't stand where he's standing right there.
No.
And watch the launch. That's way too close. So what's going on there? Tell us about.
All right, this is actually they had tried to launch this Delta. This was Delta.
About your equipment.
Oh,
there.
the
Tell
equipment,
the people.
okay.
Yeah, the equipment.
The box on the left is exactly what it is. It's a poor man's pieces of woods taken, put them together. And 2 cameras inside. This was back with film, and just kind of one's bolted to one side, one's bolted to the other side.
And how are they triggered?
These were both triggered by one little unit. I'll bring it in one time. We'll
Yeah.
show it. But the one back there, that was probably one that was built by the UCAX or made by the UCAX.
But the sensor is sensing what to?
It senses the noise.
The noise.
The one that might.
I want a ground motion or noise motion.
There's some that censor light. There's some that censor the seismic ones. I always use
A
the
device you buy to put on your camera to do that.
correct
Yes.
attach. So these were probably with a Radio Shack meter, just off the shelf Radio Shack meter,
Mm-hmm.
and then the people go in and do their magic. Now I still always to figure out how you can point a camera at something and get a picture out of it. So I'm going to tell you that the noise goes in and the cameras work.
Yeah.
That's something Mark and Tom will tell you about maybe. But
Well, there they are.
that's
Who are?
it's Mark on the left
Okay.
and Tom in the middle. And if I remember correctly,
That's Tom in the middle.
yep, that's yep. If I remember correctly, they were setting out on what we called it was an overlook on Beach Road. And I believe this was one where they were putting out infrared film to see what would happen
wow.
if they could get something on infrared film.
That's a photographer. You're never satisfied with what your last shot was. You've always got to try to improve and make it different.
Well, if you get
and you got to also be ready for the rain out there, because tell us about the procedure. You go out there, set up.
You can see the
How many hours before launch?
usually the day before.
Okay.
Now, with some of the unmanned launches, that they'll take us the same day. If they're launching, say, 5 o'clock in the morning or in the afternoon, they might take us out at 7 o'clock in the morning. As long as they're, depending on what time pad clear is, and when the people have to be safely out. Usually it's like the day before, and you set it up, and the people with the timers will set them up to come live, as they say. So they'll stay asleep until their timer wakes the cameras up, and then they'll be actively live. I got away from the timers because that's just one more thing you have to worry about, whether you set it or whether it's going to work right. So mine are just
Battery power. Everything.
exactly. Mine are just it's the same. Actually, it's the same trigger I've been using since the '90s.
Wow.
If it ain't broke, don't fix
Yeah.
it.
So there's various ways to do this. It's like some of you photographers might be weather photographers to capture lightning. And there is a sensor you can buy to put on your
for
camera.
lightning. Exactly.
And, some of these are cheap, and some of them aren't cheap. But you
So
can,
if you put them out in the morning, and we now set them for 2 days because it keeps everybody from having to go out and out and out and out. So if the weather is going to be inclement, I always at least put a plastic bag over it. And it looks like the one on the left has the blue thing was a plastic bag. The one on the right was actually a something that Tom and Mark had a friend of theirs sew up, that it was not a vinyl, but it was kind of like a
Tyvek or
tarp wrap
something.
kind of thing. And it was insulated to keep the heat out, and it was also slightly waterproof. And we also put, I put like what I call a carport shade on. So it's something, I'll go get a for sale sign or whatever, tape it over and just put it on the front so it
take the
sticks
for
out.
sale sign off your car.
Beware of dog, yes. And put it out so it overhangs the front. And what that is supposed to do is keep any dew from falling and getting on your lens. Or if
Yeah.
it rains, most of the time it will keep the rain from getting in your lens. So it keeps you, because if you get any kind of moisture on your
dew
lens.
would be a big thing. Being an amateur astronomer, yes, at 3, 4 in the morning, all the telescopes are drippy, and you hear air dryers going on to clear off lenses and
And
stuff.
if the dew point is bad, then you're at the mercy of Mother Nature.
That's right. Well, we're gonna we got quite a few pictures to get through here. Not to rush you, but
no.
I wanted to. We've set you up about how they do this, and you've got what I find interesting is Tom Usiak was telling you when he couldn't come down with his equipment where he wants everything, because you guys know the layout of the place.
Exactly.
Like being around a football field over and over, where you know where you want to go to get the shot in there. So who we have here?
The fella on the
Left.
far left, that was one of Tom and Mark's friends from, I think it was from one of their local media stations. And I got to be frank, I can't remember the name.
And that's
but
Tom and Mark
Tom and
Usiak
Mark
in the middle.
and me on the right.
No mustache, no beard, no nothing. That's
Yeah, that was STS 114.
the return to
The
flight.
return to flight. So this is one of the problems.
Yikes! Yikes! You gotta
This-
remember you are in a national wildlife refuge.
So there are times you put your camera out, and at beginning you put your tripods out the first day, so you didn't have so much to take out, and then the next day you'd take your cameras. And so this is one of those times where we put the tripods out one day and went back the next day to put the cameras on it, and this was sitting there.
Wow.
That you
That's a pretty healthy one too.
yeah, you come back a little later and set that
You
camera
say,
up.
I'm going to make sure he eats a bite before I come back.
We had a friend, Mike Brown, was shooting for Florida today. He went back, and he's another one that used the trash bags over his. He went back and went to take the trash bag off after the launch, and there was a big snake curled up inside it. And he says, I'll come back and pick this one up later.
Wow, that's something
So-
you think about there. He's got his camera weighted there, folks. You amateur shutterbugs out there, you got to
Doggy
keep these
stake
things steady.
down.
Stake
I've
it
had
down.
them blown over from rocket exhaust. I've had them blown over from the wind. So you never know.
Well, we're going to speak to the professionalism of this talented rocket photographer and show you 4 Aviation Week and Space Technology covers he's done, which is a nice paycheck to get in the mail, I'm sure. And but this is tell us about every photographer kind of has a top 5 images in their head. Mine, for example, is a shot I took of President Carter shaking a black hand in the crowd, and it was on the U.S. cover of every newspaper on a Sunday morning. I'm sure you felt like that about this, one of your best photos.
Well, and
tell us about that and your affiliation with Aviation Week and Space Technology.
I'm also my own hardest
critic.
So I look at this and go like, if I just a little bit, and the rocket was in the middle of the moon, perfect. But no, this was a shot we did. This was back in the days of film. We didn't have computer programs to tell us where to stand. We had Air Force personnel that would take us out to escorts, and they say, okay, this is where you stand. And this particular launch was an Atlas launch. This is one of 12 covers I did for them. We're out there for an Atlas launch. It was a DSCS mission, I believe, for the Air Force, and January 20th, 2000, and it went into a hold. And it went into a hold, and it was 7 o'clock.
22-year-old photo, wow.
And it was holding, and they're holding, and by this time we're all going like, can we go home? You know, we don't know when it's coming out of the hole. We don't know if it's coming out of the hole.
What was the time of year?
January 20th.
Oh, so it could be a little chilly, too.
It was probably a little chilly, and we had waited about 45 minutes, I think. And then finally they go like, okay, they're going to launch. And so we all got behind the cameras. It took off, and it went, and everybody's click, 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 click. And then after it was out of sight, we all kind of looked at each other and went, did we just see what we think we saw?
A rocket passed in front of the moon.
Rocket passing in front of the moon. The fella on the left of me was about a couple feet, well, he was a tripod away from me on the left, and he was from the Orlando Sentinel.
Mm-hmm. What's his name? If you don't know, okay.
I'm not sure. I'd probably, if I don't want to tell the wrong name, but
Okay.
the fella on the right of me was Duffin McGee, and he was about 2 feet to my right. The fella on the left got it going through the middle of the moon, but he had this new fangled contraption called a digital camera.
Digital camera.
And nobody, I was the first time anybody really had them out there, I think, and because it was digital, low megapixels, it blew out the bottom of the moon. So you just had kind of a white circle with a kind of a dark object in it. Duffin, on the 2 feet to my right, his rocket went outside the moon.
Wow, really? It was
So
just,
a matter of
that
just
2 feet.
2 feet.
Was getting the rocket. And what telephoto lens were you using there?
That was probably the probably an 800 millimeter telephoto.
Okay,
Now,
that
it was-
looked more of a 600, and it could be
It was
over
cropped in a
1,000.
little bit.
Well, what's beautiful about it, and I've been an astrophotographer, film since a kid, and so is the moon is beautifully exposed. The highlights aren't that blown out, and I'm always critical of when you get the moonrise in your photos. A lot of people don't balance it to get the Maria, the dark areas. It's just like a flashlight in the sky.
Well,
you know?
when we weren't trying for the moon, we were trying for
Yeah,
the rocket.
yeah.
If you look at it really closely, you can see the upper stage venting, and it's
Oh,
one
it's
of
an
those that
outstanding photo,
you
yeah.
can't plan it. Well, now you can, but back then,
Now you've got an app for that.
yes,
So-
exactly, and it'll tell you to move 3 feet to your left if there's a delay. So
Well, I see Marty. Oh, if there's a delay, which would make a difference too, in the Earth moving over the trajectory.
Right, so if
not
this-
the rocket moving, the Earth is moved and
And the
changed
moon-
the difference of where the moon position would be.
if this had gone on time,
Sure.
this picture would never.
Right. Marty, I see you writing some stuff down there for some of our friends. We got some questions for Carleton, and I can give you the shout out list there.
Yeah, Mark Uziak says Orlando Sentinel photographer Red Huber, perhaps.
It wasn't Red. It was.
You're wrong, Mark.
I want to say
Not
Joe.
Red Hoover.
It was either Joe Burbank, might have been Joe Burbank.
Let's look at another one here. Of course, when you've got a triple barrel out there on the pad, that's an ominous thing to see, isn't it?
It's-
The United Launch Alliance's deltas are an incredibly sight to see.
It is, and I was fortunate because I was shooting for Boeing, doing a lot of their photography, launch photography, when Boeing originally came up with the Delta 4s. So I was there at the beginning.
Now, did you solicit yourself to Boeing? Here's my
Boeing?
portfolio.
Well,
and look
it's
at- or-
no, actually, McDonnell Douglas, the very first BSB was the Marco Polo. It was Delta 187, I think, in 1988, 1989.
Mm-hmm.
And it was so it was launched, and McDonnell Douglas needed a picture for that one, and they went to a friend at the it was actually August 27th, 1989, Delta 187. They had gone to a friend on Florida Today and said, we need a picture. And it was a Mike Brown, I believe, and Mike said, well, no, I can't, or it was Todd Halverson, one of the two. But here's the name of somebody who might have one for you. So they came to me, and I said, sure, I'll supply you with pictures. So that worked out so well. That was the start of my career working for McDonnell Douglas, then Boeing, and then ULA, until I had to bow out for health reasons. I covered about 11 or 12 years.
Awesome, awesome. We're going to look at another one of his covers there, Marty. I picked this one because it's a static shot. You were obviously in a bunny suit. Tell us what this is. And it's a very good perspective of it, actually.
This is New Horizons that went to Pluto, or I guess it's still somewhere out there.
Yeah, well, actually, it went by another Kuiper Belt object. They changed the name of it, but yeah, it's still the trucking out there. May go past something out
And
there. Marty, if you got that list, I'll give a shout out to some of our friends. But yes, that's
the unique thing about this is the fella in the bunny suit at the very front looking at it. I needed somebody for perspective.
yeah,
But you
right,
always want
absolutely.
perspective on these
I
things.
love it because you got people in
That
there.
is actually Alan Stern, who was
Oh.
the project director.
The JPL director, yes.
And he contacted me saying, oh my goodness, we got the cover of Aviation Week, and not only that, but I'm on the cover of Aviation Week.
Cool.
So he was very glad to see the coverage that Aviation Week got us, and through Craig Covalt, who I worked with Aviation Week, we got the cover and met Alan Stern, got to work with him, and got him on the cover there.
Well, that's a nice perspective of it, and it was one of the fastest objects to leave the Earth, and
Top left-hand corner.
But hi to Cynthia Rossi and Desalin Zerga,
I think it was
Pat
just,
Confessera,
Probably nice.
astronomy professor Keith Sewell, welcome, thank you, sir. Madeline Vanderland, and Beverly Rother.
Hey,
And,
Beverly.
hey, Beverly. Thank you for watching Stay Curious there. She is now, she retired at the Kennedy Visitors Complex, and I believe she's a docent on the Cape Canaveral side there. Congratulations
I
on that,
recognize a lot
Beverly.
of those names.
Yeah, out there working for Jamie, out there in the, or probably volunteering in Hangar C, I would say. She's probably
Okay.
hanging out there with Jamie Draper. Hi, Jamie. He's the director out there. And Christopher Mick, we've got some people from Wisconsin were in here. Told them to come by, but I told them you were in Hudson and look you up there. So
Lisa Marie is, she does a lot of the NASA social. She's over in Tampa watching,
okay. Hi, Lisa Marie.
and her mom, Pat. And
Brad McKinnon, you know Brad?
I know Brad very well from
Cool.
out there. Well, that and Zarella's Pizza. He's one of the regulars for there.
Well, hi, Brad. And Mike Killian, where we talked to Mike. We talked about Mike earlier, and we're going to have Mike on the show to showcase some of his wonderful work. And, of course, Dave Stang's up in Michigan. Ophelia is in Normandy, Paris. Hi, Ophelia. And the Usiak brothers went from the 60s probably to the 30s in the weather up there in Lancaster, Pennsylvania. But we appreciate everybody watching.
It's good to
And
see people
we know there's a
watching.
lot of you that don't like or put your name up there, and that's fine. Okay, that's fine. We're glad that you're all staying curious and enjoying a wonderful conversation here with Carleton Bailie.
Rain Brooks.
Yes, Rain is.
Rain Brooks.
She's a.
Hi, Rain.
She's out in California.
Oh, really?
Yes.
Oh, awesome.
Only thing she likes
It's one
close
in the
to
afternoon
space
out
is Halloween.
Oh,
one
really?
of my Halloweenies.
She likes Halloween. Okay. Well, let's get to one other cover of yours that has some explanation to do. As you all folks, when I first looked at this myself as a photographer, I'm going, what the heck is on the cover? What editor would choose this as a cover? Now I go, wait a minute. This is a time exposure. So something. And of course, the cover gives it away. The
This
words.
is this back when the shuttle was flying. They would take the pilots, the commanders, and put them in what they call the shuttle training aircraft.
STA, as Travis Triple T Thompson
Exactly.
told us. The
And
STA.
I guess the controls and the way you could control it was as close to coming in like a shuttle would for an actual landing.
Mm-hmm.
So they would put them in that, and they would practice touch and go landings as if they're coming in. We went out one night, and I think it was a Lieutenant Colonel. Back then, I think it was a Lieutenant Colonel Guerin. He was practicing.
Right, but to become astronaut Ron Guerin, who we've got a Stay Curious program with Bart Martindale as my co-host on when I was out of town, and we've got Ron's books here in the bookstore. So he was flying, training on that.
He was just becoming an astronaut, I believe, or he was just coming up along where he was going to
Excuse me.
fly. So he and they were going to go out there. They did that. Craig Cavalt was in there. They all went up in the plane. They got the good seats.
But where'd you get the idea for this? You're out at night. Obviously, you're like challenged. Now, wait a minute. What can I photograph?
Well, Craig Cavalt, who was my editor from AvWeek, said he had seen a picture once before, and as far as anybody knew, it had only been tried once, and it was done by an astronaut. And
Let's look at the original photograph there as you explain your technique.
oh, and gosh, now I forgot his name. He went on. He was Jay Apt.
Okay.
I'm pretty sure.
Oh, Jay Apt. Yes, APT astronaut. Yeah.
I think he went on to become up with the Pittsburgh Carnegie Mellon Museum, and so I hope I got the right astronaut. Anyway, I called him and I said, because Craig said, let's do this, and I had no idea how to do this. So I called him and we talked it over, and he
This
said
being taking this image.
how
Yeah.
he had taken it. He had done it once before.
Oh, okay, an astronaut, and you think Jay Apt had done this
And
before.
and
okay.
so I got.
And this is at Kennedy Space Center? Or?
This is on. I was actually standing in the middle of the shuttle landing facility. You can see the kind of light at the bottom there is the outside gate at the end of the thing. What I had to do is it looks like it's going up, but it starts about 5 miles away, and you leave the shutter open, and as it goes over you, 20 or 30 feet over you, at a couple hundred miles an hour, it looks like it's going up, but it's actually going over me.
Mm-hmm.
Now, you don't have many times to try it, but
These are the lights blinking on the
these are the lights
craft
blinking
that
on the aircraft. So basically, this shows what a shuttle would look like, the glide slope and things of a shuttle as it's coming in
Yeah,
for a
there's
landing.
probably some value to understanding that. Now, you're standing in the middle of the shuttle runway in the middle of the night, Carleton. Is this one of those things where you got permission, or was
Oh,
it where
yes.
you
Oh,
asked
yeah.
forgiveness later?
No. It was totally, no, I've learned. I ask everything.
Okay.
I like to be
He
invited
knows what I'm
back.
talking about. You get the shot on the private property and ask forgiveness later.
No,
if they
it was
give you-
it was set up through NASA, and they took us out there. It's just
That's sweet.
it's a
That's
little
very-
unnerving standing in the middle. Well, I put the camera in the middle of the runway, and I kind of stepped a few feet to the side
Uh-huh.
because if this thing's coming down and it's going a couple hundred miles an
Oh,
hour,
it's steep. It is unbelievably
and
steep.
it passes over your head at maybe 20, 30, 40 feet.
Oh, wow.
That 20, 30, 40 feet looks more like
What
2
a
or 3
thrill.
feet. But yeah, it
What an experience that
I had
very few of
three-
us have experienced.
I had 3 tries to get it right.
Did you?
And then they quit for the night, but I nailed all 3
Was
of
this
them.
film or digital?
This
era?
was film.
Film era, even more
So
impressive.
all of
Wow.
these I've got the original negatives for, and I can always prove.
What's the building on the bottom there?
The building, actually, that's a big sign on the fence that probably says "Stay
out."
and don't come in here and
Yeah.
try to shoot things."
Well, we love spending a little time on that. Something unique to let you non-photographers know that there's a lot of challenges and a lot of beauty in things that meet the eye once you understand what it's all about. We're going to look at some of your rockets on the pad out there, and there is a what rocket are we looking at there? What
That's a
kind?
Delta II.
And that's got what are the white things?
The
around
white
it?
things are the solid rocket motors. They
So-
would have 6 of them. There would be 9 of them. Sorry, 9 of them was the general idea. They also add them 3 to it, and but this was a 9 one.
This was a special.
This was a
rocket here.
special one. This was the GPS 2R, meaning it was the second in the series, the second series
Global positioning
global
satellite.
position, and the 12th one in the second batch of them.
But it was a tribute to the late President Reagan.
Ronald Reagan had just passed away, and it was a tribute to him. Some of these things are dedicated, but they're dedicated by the Air Force or the launch provider, perhaps. And they've got the stickers on them, but you don't always see those in the news. And it was
Launch
such,
one for the Gipper. I never heard that.
was
and there they
kinda
are
nice.
launching one for the Gipper.
and that was 6/23/04.
Now, what is this about? Is this your camera? Is it remote camera on the gantry?
Yes.
Okay, that'd be my guess because I know you wouldn't be allowed to have any kind of drone. They do not allow drones
I
doing
know.
rocket photography.
I think this was before drones.
Oh yeah, way before drones.
But no, I would go
They
up.
do out of Texas with SpaceX on
Right.
on that, but
This was, I would go up to the 8th
spectacular
level.
cloud there, just a gorgeous envelope of cloud and energy coming out of those rockets. That's beautiful.
This is actually one that I had shot for, I guess it was Boeing by that time, and they used it for press releases and things. But yeah,
And here's another tribute one we're going to see. There's the launch of
That's the-
Let It Roll. Let's Roll.
this was in memory of the plane that on 9/11
Yes.
that
Cra-
crashed into Pennsylvania.
Crookshaw, the Uziak brothers are correct. This Crookshank, Pennsylvania.
Mark was just
something
down there, I
of
think, because
something.
for the.
A tribute to that. Wow, that is so cool.
And they put
there's-
and they've got the little sticker. I say little sticker, it's huge
Yes,
sticker on the
4
fairing.
feet by 5
But
feet.
I was talking to somebody and they said they've never even heard and didn't realize because I posted this 9.
This was right after the half hour or half a
that-
year afterwards or something.
Well, it was January 29th in 03.
Okay.
And that was
Okay,
2
2 years
R8.
later.
So that was actually before the Ronald Reagan one. This is probably my all-time favorite Delta picture I ever took.
Okay. There's the rocket that they're actually taking out to the pad horizontal and then raised up.
This
And
was
you
the-
got a little critter there.
This was the
Carleton.
first Delta IV Heavy. Does not have the upper stage on it. That's why the middle looks kind of, stubby. But there was a armadillo just standing there or sitting, kind of munching alongside. This is a very steep bank, so I just kind of hopped the fence, got over the bank, got down a little bit, And if I can get something different that's not there, this is obviously not something that Boeing or, you don't, it's the artwork kind of thing.
Yeah.
You got to get the technical and you get kind of the artsy. If I can get
or
animals
lifestyle,
in it,
comical things.
and
so
to
on.
see this, I've got many pictures of armadillos out there in front of Pat, but this is probably one of my favorite because he just sat there like, you've got this biggest thing that had ever, well, since the Apollo days, and then you've got the middle of a nature preserve, and this kind of proves both of them there right at once.
Beautiful, beautiful. So, did that become the family pet with the wallabies
No,
and the lions and tigers?
Anything out there,
and Godzilla.
what happens in the Cape stays at the Cape.
Oh, okay. That's a good way to put it. I just like the angle of this. Photographers always, Carleton knows you either want to be high up or low down. You want to be me. I always want to be away from the crowd and get a different shot. So you got a high angle.
This was actually a Delta 3.
Mm-hmm.
It didn't. And again, this was the day I went out and shot for.
Risky shot with the sun so close to it too, but you pulled it
Well,
off.
yeah, it was actually probably laid down on the hard stand, and this was using one of the UCX Hasselblads.
Oh, so you
And-
want to either be on your stomach or your
I'm
low
sitting on the,
or up high?
Or up high. That was, well, they took us out for, that was the very first Delta Heavy. It's got the upper stage on it. It was August 7th in 04, the Saturday before Charlie hit.
Oh,
The
okay.
first of 4 hurricanes that year. They had hired a helicopter, and I went up in the helicopter with there was also a video crew doing publicity things for Boeing at the time. And we went out over the ocean, we went down. And it's probably hard to see on these things, but if you look real close on some of them, you can see little people down there.
I'm looking for the people. I'm looking over at the cars. You can get an idea.
And
of
they're
the cars. And,
very, very tiny. But to
but-
see these things from that perspective is something that, well, few don't. And I was just fortunate in the years that I worked out there. I've been out there to get into places where others weren't. And again, you'll never have this opportunity again, not being the very first one. And you can do it, but you'll be
Yep.
doing
You'll
something
be
I've already
following
done.
the footsteps of Carleton Bailie here, rocket photographer for more than 35 years. We're so pleased that he has embraced the American Space Museum, and we're glad that you're watching on Facebook, YouTube, Twitch, or Spotify. And if you got any questions for Carleton, Marty Winkle, my cameraman, co-producer here, he'll be glad to bring them up to me here, or he'll shout them out there. But that is just a hell of a photo. Actually, the towers, the lightning towers, kind of enhance it by giving it a snug look to it there.
Well, you
but
gotta-
when you see these 3 barrels, this is a huge spy satellite that they're putting in space. Make no bones about that.
At least the size of a school bus, probably.
And how, what's this is not a Saturn V 360 feet tall, but it's over 300 feet tall, isn't it?
I believe so. It's the Delta
Yeah.
4. The one thing I didn't look up.
Excellent shot. And I love the shot, a shot like this, because you can see those triple barrel flames so distinctly on a blue day. Usually they meld together. And something just struck me about that shot, Carleton. Is that a special one to you? Or?
Yeah, it was anything that nobody else got to do is always special. This was, again, film before digital.
Yep.
I like this because you can see the blockhouse just to the left of the smoke plume, the HIF, or the horizontal integration facility, where these are put together before they're rolled out to the pad, and there in the front was the core stage from the very first test firing, the Pathfinder test fire from the pad. And this was on top of an old fuel tank ball at the corner of the Delta road going into the Delta pad. It's since moved over and been recycled for SpaceX use, I believe. But I would go up to the top of that and bolt a camera to the top. Most of the time, we would have vultures up there with us. So
Vultures.
well,
Wow.
it was.
You said this is pad 34, right? No, not
37.
37.
37.
Yeah,
But I
37.
like this because it gives
34
you
is
an overall, you can see the ocean in the back, and it gives you an overall picture of how big it is, but how small it is.
That's what I like about you know how big that rocket is.
And it shows
And
the
yet,
whole
look at there.
complex, everything from the blockhouse to the where it's put together.
Marty's got to he's got to get a dictionary, pronounce a dictionary for me.
I
Esonavo. There's ESOJNAVJ is watching. Thank you. Pam Shivik. Hi, Pam. She's a
Pamela-
wonderful outreach astronomy gal. Mark says that's Flight 93 in Shanksville.
Shanksville.
Yeah, Shanksville.
Thank you, Mark.
Was the tragedy that the passengers actually averted that flight from hitting the U.S. Capitol building. There's no doubt that's where that was headed.
No doubt.
And it would have killed senators and Republicans, and it would have been even more of a mess. Thank you for pointing that out, Mark. Cynthia Rossi asks, how many launches have you covered to date? Thank you for asking, Cynthia Rossi.
Well, I always start that with, as in any poll, as we, give or take that 3 to 5% margin of error, we're somewhere around 610, I think.
Wow.
Now, they're not, I don't categorize it individual. I just go like, that's how many rockets I've seen go up.
Mm-hmm.
We would go out one day maybe and see 6 Pershings go up. Back,
I
it was
gotcha.
after they signed the treaty of we're not going to use them anymore, so they had them, so let's go have fun and play with them kind of
Really?
thing.
What year was that? Remember?
87, 88.
They actually just disposed of Pershings because they
Well-
was part of the Cold War pact, and you got to get rid of them. So
And
instead of dismantling, let's
I'm
just
sure
throw
there
them in
was
the
more-
ocean.
Exactly. They took them out, and just because they weren't using those anymore didn't mean there wasn't something else hiding in the wings.
Uh-huh.
So they would put them out near the ocean on one of their
Right, exactly.
and
There's always
they would
something
launch
in
them
the
into
weeds.
the ocean, but they would have the crews that needed to launch them just kind of hanging around because the crews wouldn't know when they're going to do it. The crews would then get ready, we're going to do it. And then they would have to jump into action and make sure they could do it in the time frame that they were supposed to do it. And there was one day that they launched 6 in a matter of 2 or 3 hours. I
Pershing
think.
missiles we're talking about.
Yep.
That had to have been a fun day.
It was different, but it was,
We're talking about film versus digital, and with this wonderful photographer here, we'll get into a couple shuttle things here in a minute. Film versus digital, and I was talking with Tom and Mark Usiak about this the other night, that you people that haven't experienced the film era, what the difference is the dollar sign. You had to pay someone to see your either your negatives processed and look at the raw negatives or have proofs made or something like that. And it's just like you go out to a launch with film and you got a 36 roll of film in there on 3 or 4 cameras probably. So the 36 roll of film was about $4 or $5 each to buy the film. Let's say $5, and you got 4 cameras. There's $20 to develop 36 rolls of film. You don't take it to the 1 hour photo lab. You take it to a professional lab that's going to charge you probably $10 to see 36 4x5 or 4x6 prints. So there you got 20 and 40. You got $60 wrapped up before you can even see your first picture.
and you probably weren't going to see what they look like for at least 4 to 6 hours.
Oh yeah, or the next day.
Or
even.
the next day.
Or the next day, exactly. And you're going to only use, luckily, probably 3 or 1 off of each roll. You would say is worthy of people seeing your work, right?
Exactly. We
Yeah.
did not have the comfort of 2,000 or 3,000 frames.
And walking
available.
around as you pick up your camera, looking at them on the back of your camera.
We
going,
had to go home and go to sleep going like, I hope I got it. I hope.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
And to a freelancer like him, that's a payday. Okay, that's your paycheck. You don't know if the camera operated properly. There's so many things that can go wrong with a camera, folks. And incredible harsh atmosphere out there of the humidity, the bugs, the everything's gone.
You would know immediately whether your camera went off or not because it would show how many frames were left,
Yeah.
if any. So you would know immediately whether
There's
it
a
worked.
countdown counter on the camera would show you
Right.
that, folks.
You just wouldn't know when it fired.
Yeah.
And you would hope that it fired in that little period when the rocket fired the engines and took off, and not if a stray rain shower came through,
With lightning.
or in the case of one fellow that had a light sensitive meter for a night launch, one of the security guards, the story is, when the security guards glanced in to look and see what it was, a light bounced off of his mirrored lenses, sunglasses, and set the camera off.
Oh, wow. I thought they might have flashlight. So there's a little taste of what these guys were up to, the pioneers of this launch photography out there, because the digital world is just, one thing is the money. And I was a photographer for NASCAR and Bristol Motor Speedway. Would cost me $125 to $150 to see my work, and then try to go sell it to somebody.
I tell you what, it's harder to shoot a race car than it is a shuttle sometimes.
Yeah,
too.
well, we'll get around and I'll show you some of that, some of my stuff there. Well, let's get into the shuttle era here. Marty Winkle was working on the engines there. A beautiful night shot. When did you have access to the pad at night, Carleton?
This was the night before on most of the launches. The night before, if it was a daytime or morning or early, anywhere 11 to 15 hours before launches, at least, they would take us out there because they'd have to roll the service structure back. And you'd get the nighttime photography, and they would take you to different sets. You'd have this angle. They'd do a side angle where you'd see it 90 degrees, and then you'd see it directly head on. This particular night, I was actually 7/28 of 2000, I know my memory's not correct, I had to look it up, but July 28th, 2000, we were out there because Columbia was going to launch very soon, and there's a little speck at the top of this.
Yeah, I see it up there.
And if you look real closely, that's Hale-Bopp comet.
No way. Okay.
Yes. Now,
so I knew it wasn't the moon. It didn't look big enough. Marty's gonna. Thank you, Marty. That's Comet Hale-Bopp in 1987. I mean 97. 97.
No, yeah.
97 was Hale-Bopp.
No, this is 2000. Is the date I got.
Okay. Well, that's
But-
the wrong comet, but
Well, I know it's Hale-Bopp. Maybe I just
Okay,
got the wrong
yeah,
date. But the hardest part about this was this is also film.
yeah.
Now, to get a comet shot, even with the digital now, you got to expose it for a few seconds.
Yeah.
Now, if you expose the xenon lights on a shuttle that's white for a few seconds, you're going to get it so blasted out that you're
Right.
not going to see anything. This was an old T90 film camera that had the ability to put 9
Canon.
frames on one frame of film.
Oh.
So you could put 9 individual frames on one frame. So for this, I did like a 1-second exposure of the shuttle and then took something very, very carefully and covered the shuttle part and left the very top part open and exposed that for a few seconds, maybe a half a minute, 30 seconds, a minute, and that's how we got the shot because that light wouldn't reach the shuttle.
That's cool. Mike Killian, your brother launch photographer out there, wants you to share how did you pursue being a pro launch photographer? How'd you get started? What advice do you have for someone wanting to pursue their passion, just like you? Mike Killian. Thank you, Mike.
Thank you, Mike. Yeah, it's an interesting story. Oh, that shows Godzilla. Yeah. I got started. Back in second grade, I was studying Wallops Island up in Virginia, where I'm from, Richmond, Virginia. So I followed the Mercury. Once I moved to Florida, I started seeing shuttle launches, and I couldn't get enough. There was nothing, and it got to the point where there's nothing in the newspapers, magazine. So I subscribed to a magazine called Countdown, which was out of Athens, Ohio. And
University of Ohio University.
The fellow actually was an English teacher there, Dick Sonato. And I wrote him, I said, it's an excellent magazine, but you're using too many NASA photos. What you need is somebody that's on the scene that can go in and take pictures for you. And he says, well, yeah, we've been looking for somebody, but what are your qualifications? I said, well, I got a degree in zoological parks, I have my own equipment, and I work real cheap, and I live here. And he goes, that is the best resume I've ever seen. You got your own equipment and you work cheap.
Emphasis on cheap, yeah.
And I went out and did a story for him, it was start at the the right time, right place.
Countdown magazine. Did that segue into another magazine?
No, it went out of business a few
Okay.
years ago when in the process of the internet kind
Yeah,
of thing.
okay.
I did a story on the dedication of Pad 39B because it hadn't been used since the Apollo days and was getting ready to.
And actually, the first launch off that was STS-51L Challenger.
And that was the first launch I covered as a news person.
Wow.
And he said, well, it's coming up a launch. We've got you badged for it. It's going to be a circus atmosphere. The teacher in space is going. Go in. It's a circus atmosphere. You're going to have fun. Just relax, kick back, have fun, but learn what doors are closed that you can open. Learn what doors are open that you can go in and close.
Good advice.
Learn how to read upside down. And there's another one in 3 weeks after that. And
Why learn to read upside down?
well, you'd be talking to somebody at their desk, and they've had things on their desk, and
yeah.
Oh,
That's when they're going to launch that. Or
but you
that's
didn't tell them that
Right,
much.
yeah.
Anyway,
That's,
so unfortunately, we did have the anomaly that took out Challenger, and
how'd you feel about that? Your first rocket launch, you saw that.
I think it's probably one of my only times I've ever been in shock. I remember waking up the next day. I was living in Orlando, and I know I went to every newsstand and market I could find looking for a newspaper that did not have a headline that said Challenger exploded on it, because I still didn't believe it the next day. Goosebumps.
Wow. Yeah,
And I've been there ever since. I then took a middle of the night. My career then segued into Aviation Week, because I and a friend, Doug Rink from WDBO Radio, sat out waiting for a Titan launch for 2 or 3 days. Back then, you could listen in a scanner to find out what was going on if you knew the right frequencies.
Really?
And my first streak shot was classified Titan going off. Back then, they go like, "Yeah, we launched something, but we can't tell you what." or
Yeah,
where."
I didn't see any streak shots in your group there.
Yeah.
That's the line that we all try to perfect it for the night shots there. Well, there you have it. How he got into it. Some great advice there for some of you pursuing it out there. I would also add, be prepared to be disappointed from time to time. That
Mostly with the paychecks.
With the paychecks, but also you got a great picture, and they make it a little thumbnail or something.
I'll bring one of those examples of some of those.
It's a whole
one
different
day.
world with your stuff is going to out in cyberspace and everything. So, well, let's look at a couple more pretty pictures, but we got to get Godzilla in there for you.
That was just from one of my books. I threw that in there not knowing it was going to make the air, but that was one.
Of course, it's going to make the air.
We're
staying curious with me.
Well, back in the 70s, that would be the size of Godzilla back then, as opposed to a space shuttle size. So
Yeah.
if you put Godzilla next to the space shuttle back in the 80s, I guess, that's where it would come up to.
All right, when he was fighting the Mothra and
Megalon.
Gordo and all that stuff go. Well, like we were talking, it's fun to have a little bit of an eclectic personality. You and I both agree, because you get older, you got to have some fun in life. We're both of the age where we've had, like everybody, your ups and downs, medical issues, personal issues, and if you can't have some fun in life towards the end of your life, what good was the whole thing?
Well, he's got astronauts as friends. He has the guys that were in the Godzilla suits as Facebook friends.
Really?
And we'll tell some of those stories one day.
Well, here is certainly one of the rarest photographs any photographer could take, is 2 shuttles passing the night. I believe that's one of them's Endeavor and the other one's Atlantis. What's going on
Discovery. It was. I think it was STS-35. Columbia was getting rolled back in,
here? Yeah.
and Atlantis, I believe,
what
was
I'm
going back out.
I'll be corrected by you people out there for sure. They'll know out there.
Atlantis, I think,
Yeah.
was going to be a military launch, and 35 had problems. That was taken the night of August 9th, 1990, or the morning of August 9th, 1990. you're looking at what, $8 billion, and
Yeah, $8 billion, and not counting the mobile launch platforms.
and as it was coming, one was actually the closer one on the left side was Columbia, 35, and the other one was going out. That might have been 36, I think.
Well, let's consult the scroll while you're
But
talking there.
we're all kind of going like, wow, this is something you'll never see again. Putting that much hardware that close together. It's not photoshopped in. Again, it's film, not anything else. So it's
And the weather situation, because taking these vehicles out, you have the weatherman is the most important
It's gotta
person
be-
because, as Triple T has told us, the bird is the most vulnerable right now to anything happening in natural disasters.
if it started raining, it could take out the tiles.
Wow. Yeah, I think it was 38 and 35 there,
38.
1990. Yeah,
Okay.
Atlantis was 38. Consulting the shuttle scroll here, 35 was Columbia.
Right, 37 was
Brands.
Grow.
That was Astro 1, and your Columbia had Astro 1 on it, and Atlantis was a DoD mission. And 38, we should know 38, Marty. That's Bob Springer's mission there that has helped Marty out at some of his run things around there. All right, there is the rainbow shot we've been showing behind you there, and you got your own selfie in that rainbow shot.
You got it. You know, and the odd thing about this is everybody looked at it says, you know, the first thing they noticed wasn't so much the rainbow, but the boots I was wearing. And it was not always hospitable climates out there, and you were in the muck and the mud, and so yes, we wore rubber boots out there. But yeah, if I've never been one not to be shy away from having a selfie taken, and if I can get it, I get it.
Yeah, yes, I added a few out of here, but no, that's cool.
Yes.
And we're gonna. One thing about you, amateurs are wanting to become a professional photographer in any type of photojournalism. Be prepared to hurry up
And wait.
and wait. Yep, because nothing ever goes the way it's supposed to. And like you said, you're in situations you never dreamed of, and you wish you had boots on, or you
And
wish
2
you
minutes
had,
later, the rainbow, might be gone.
Yep.
The Usiak brothers, Tom working on a camera,
Yeah.
and I
Little
like
brother
to say,
there.
I like to say that's one of the few I have of Tom actually, and not making Mark set up and do all the work.
Oh,
But
is that
I think
right?
that's why Mark is so smiling like that,
Uh-huh.
because he's like, okay, the professor is watching the king do it, so he's happy that he's on the ground level.
He's got a Hasselblad 500C in that baby, and he's got like the cover of it to protect it from the elements is something that their team built there that was going on there.
That's me. I don't know. Again, I could
Just
look
to-
up. It's just that way we've used one tripod, which is an old Surveyor.
Yeah, I've got some Surveyor tripods.
And we're able to put 3 cameras and on there. Those were in PVC tubes with the fronts cut out, and
That
just-
allowed you to get a low angle. That's why you're using that, because you can't spread out a regular tripod
not
to
that
get that
far.
low
no.
angle like that. I see what you're doing there. This is a shot that you go to cover. This is any time of day, the walk out to the van to go to the pad.
This is the
Kind of a
the
solemn
prime
occasion,
example of the hurry up and wait. You'd have about an hour and a half to wait and about 7 seconds to shoot. The great thing about this is my parents were very proud of this picture too. The fella on the left, the far left, that's Tom Usiak.
Okay.
That one, that's Tom. The fella on the right,
Yeah. Over, by
over
you,
there,
Over you. Yeah.
I'll get it.
Yeah,
Anyway,
yeah,
the
yeah.
one up over my head, that's me.
Oh, okay.
And then the fellow next to Tom, yeah, it's me. And then the fellow next to Tom, that fellow is Ray Yost, who passed away a few years ago, but was one of the greatest men you'd ever know. And
Ray Yost.
Ray Yost, a friend of the UCACs and had been out there for years, and he was one of our escorts to go out there. That was 47. I
That looks
think.
like Cabana's the pilot there. Again, you're getting me going to the scroll here. 47. Back in the day of Gibson. Brown 47. That doesn't look right. That's Hoot Gibson. That's not Hoot. That's I'm sure that's Cabana on the far left there. So there, I bet that's 53. Walker, Cabana, no, Guy Bluford would be there. He's not there.
No, it might have been 47.
All right.
But that's an official NASA photo. That's a photo that that NASA
And you're in it. That's
that
cool.
they released, and yeah,
Where's a picture of
That's got
selfie?
41.
41.
41.
Okay. 41 on the scroll. Yes, that's Richards, Cabana, Shepard. Bruce Melnick's in there. Okay, that was Bruce's first flight, and Tom Akers, his first flight. Cabana's first, too. That was October 1990, Discovery. They launched a Ulysses.
32 years
around
ago.
the sun. Wow. Love that kind of selfie of you. Tell people what's behind you there.
That is a fairing off of one of the GOES missions.
The covers, they call the fairings over the spacecraft.
The nose cones, the fairings. We went in to see the GOES satellite before it was launched and photograph it. They make us put the bunnies, what they call the bunny suits on, so it's hermetically seal yourself, because they don't want any dust, dirt, stray hairs to come out, because especially if you're doing something with optics, because if a stray, even a mustache hair were to get on one of the optics up in space, it's gone.
Now I'm going to say this. I've seen a lot of you guys in these white rooms and so forth like that, and about germs and all that sort of stuff. Nobody ever has their camera covered.
They are cleaned very.
You clean your camera before you go in there? They make you clean it?
We either
Because I
make.
never see a cover on any cameras or anything.
We either clean it or they clean it for us.
Okay. That answers
They're all
my-
wiped
I've
down with
never asked,
alcohol
Ken
wipes.
Kramer that, but-
There's certain things that they'll let you take in, certain things they won't let you take in.
Okay.
But they are very, very.
That does catch my eye. You got an actor there with you.
He showed up for a GPS. Back when they were doing
That is
Armageddon.
Bruce
Willis.
Willis, of course.
They were shooting. He was here shooting Armageddon. There was a GPS launch, and he showed up over the GPS launch the night. Now it's scrubbed, so you didn't get to see it, but he was sort of standing talking to the Air Force people, and everybody was kind of like, "That's Bruce Willis. We can't go talk to him." And me,
Hey,
why
Bruce,
not?
how you doing?
I went over and talked to him, and he was like, he's the kind of guy you'd want as your next door neighbor. He was very accommodating. I had my picture taken with him. We talked for a while. And it was just, you never know who you're going to see or who you're going to meet when you go out there. But you're not out there for that. These are not photo ops.
That's
These are
icing on the
historical.
cake there.
But yeah, that's icing on the cake.
There's a little event that you were at that you cover things like this. And look at these notables. Bob Cabana's on the left there. And on the far right, you have a close-up. I'll just show here right away, is Buzz Aldrin talking to Mike Collins. And, of course, Mike passed away a year ago, and Buzz is 92 years old. And right beside Buzz is Jim Lovell. And this was something to do with the Orion spacecraft out at the, was that at the...
It was the O&C building.
Okay,
It was
operations and
actually
checkout.
it was a news media event and a big deal. It was they were renaming and dedicating the O&C building, and they renamed it
Neil Armstrong.
the Neil Armstrong. Oh, that was July 21st, 2014. But there's also Bob Cabana's in there and Charlie Bolton.
Oh, that's Charlie, yeah.
And
Charlie
I
Bolton's son.
believe the third one from the left is Rick Armstrong.
Yeah.
Mark will have to.
Beside Lovell there. I'd
So,
say
again,
that's Rick,
it's-
both Armstrongs.
These are historical things that you can't pay to get. It's just the amount of things that are history out there is just unbelievable. And to
And
see these people all in one place.
And you're recording the history there. And, of course, you've done your fair of this is the late Jim Irwin. This is a long time ago photograph, 87, because he passed of a heart attack.
I mistakenly left the date. imprint on
Yeah, I
the
see
film,
that there.
which comes back going like now I'm glad I did.
Right.
Because that was July 25th, 1987. He was doing a signing and a book signing and just kind of a
Apollo 15 moonwalker in 1971. David Scott's his commander, still alive at age 88, but he passed away of a heart attack riding his bike around his home in Houston. Imagine that kind of thing. Whole story about that too. His heart may have been compromised on the moon. We'll talk about that one day. They didn't have enough electrolytes.
He was very big.
So Apollo 16, they made Charlie Duke and John Young drink a lot of orange juice. And it gave them bad flatulence. And John Young did not like that.
I guess not.
I thought this is a cool picture as we're getting towards the end of our conversation here with Carleton Bailie. Hope you've all enjoyed it. I have. Of course, we've talked a lot of Shutterbug stuff on this hour of talking, but who you got there?
There is Eugene or Gene Cernan. This was taken by Malcolm Denmark from Florida Today.
Okay.
This was back in the late 80s when he was at one of the Space Congress. They used to hold the Space Congress down in Cocoa Beach.
Yes.
And he was either a speaker or was there in one of the meet and greets for the companies that were putting it on. And back then, they still are, they're very accommodating, very nice, one of the gentlest, kindest, nicest people you'd ever want to meet. And I got him here signing, Malcolm took a picture of him signing
Malcolm Denmark, the great photographer for
He's
Today.
still with Florida Today.
Yeah, Florida Today, one of the good ones. They
so-
ought to make that Florida Today just a photojournalism thing.
Mm-hmm.
These 3,000 word stories in there, I'm getting frustrated about it. But
And then years later,
that's kind of cool. It's all black too. It's got a cool feel.
it was actually a slide. So it was a slide, and then I had to print the slide, and it did work it up, but nothing. Uh-oh.
We threw Trekkie Techie in there, Jessica, so we don't leave her out, helping us do this with Nicole Stott. When Nicole signed over 70 books here, when we had an event for her. And she's so active. We both are on Facebook. Can you believe she's going to Europe about every month?
She's going to Europe. She's going to Antarctica.
This woman has got such energy. She was in Antarctica 2 months ago. She's back in Europe.
I tried to get her to bring me some penguins. She wouldn't.
She wouldn't?
Nah.
And we hope to have her husband Chris on a Stay Curious, Marty. We got to follow up with Chris Stott and get him on the show here. He's got an interesting story to tell. And our last slide of the day there is with everybody's Uncle Al, who passed away a little over a year ago. This is one of his last public events, by the way, before he passed away. I missed this when he talked out at Kennedy Space Center. I think that was in November, and then like December he was doing an event at Florida Institute of Technology that he talked at, and I got to meet him and talk to him a lot.
Mark
That's
had
Mark
known
Usiak there with him.
Professor Mark got to know Al so well during the Space Fest out in Arizona.
Yes.
And whenever Al would come to town, Mark would be here for some reason, playing hide and seek from Pennsylvania, but covering launches. So Mark, we knew Al was going to be at the Space Center, and we went out there, and as soon as Al saw Mark, it's like,
Really?
But they were, yeah. So that's another reason to hang around with the UCX, because if
Yeah.
they don't know him, they're not worth knowing.
Well, you should have seen his eyes light up when he saw Hazel Seacack Banks, his former secretary.
Oh, yeah?
And of course, you all know Hazel's been on our show and a great supporter. Oh, yeah, he looked at her and just gave her a big old hug.
Well, and Mark and I went out to dinner that night, and Al stopped by the restaurant. Al happened to be in the restaurant, and he stopped by and sat down at the table and ate a little dinner with us.
Well, it's good to be Carleton Bailie at times, okay? We get some perks, and those kinds of things do make up for coming back from a launch that was scrubbed, covered in mosquito bites, and your clothes are all dirty, and you've been sweating like a pig out there, and then you got to go back the next day and do it again.
And then you got to
right?
work a real job in between, so
It's
you
a
can.
glamorous lifestyle, folks, being a rocket photographer. But we're so glad that we shared this hour with Carleton Bailie. these oral histories of such are brought to you by the Marie Louise G Endowment that allowed us to buy the equipment to do this, Carleton. And so happy to just catch a thumbnail of this wonderful man's life. We'll have him back several times. I want to talk to him one time exclusively about the 1 hour photo of Cocoa Beach where the astronauts' families were coming in with their pictures, and you'd hand them a launch picture from the night before or something. So anything I didn't say that you'd like to share with our Stay Curious watchers out there, Carleton?
I don't think so, but I will. I'm local. I'll come back anytime you want me, as long as there's not a launch going on.
And yes, he'll tell you where he bought this Mouseketeer, cat Mouseketeer shirt there, buddy. Well, thank you so much. It's an honor to call you my friend and become acquaintances with you and all your launch buddies.
Not enough people are going after the history. They want to know who's doing what and what they're doing now.
Mm-hmm.
They're not so much interested in what got us here. And I'm seeing more and more of the older statesmen from out there are passing or getting away from it, and nobody's recording a lot of that history. So it's going to be lost to future generations if somebody doesn't step up and start doing things like this, and that's why I'm glad to see the Stay Curious going the way it is.
Well, I appreciate it, Carleton. It's going the way it is because of great supporters like you out there and everybody watching today. And we've lined up a great show for tomorrow. I'm trying to confirm with the Capcom, capsule communicator for the European Space Agency. He talks to the astronauts, European astronauts, and we're going to try to do a Facebook or a live. He's in Cologne, Germany, and we'll effort that back and post that tomorrow if we can do that tomorrow. And then Triple T says he's feeling better to come and do a show Friday. So
Good.
We thank you all for enjoying our program. Thank you, Carleton, Marty. Thanks for everything you do. And most of all, I thank my director, Karen Conklin, for embracing this concept for 2 years almost. We're into 500 episodes, and it's because she believed in what Marty and I are doing that we could make something of it. So, Karen, thank you very much for your support here as our boss. So, until tomorrow, I'm Mark Marquette, and we will see you tomorrow to bridge the space between us. Thank you, Carleton.
Thank you. Anything I can do to help.
All right.